Hi, I'm Stephanie Lester, and today we're creating the needle felted bunny from the Crafty Kit Company. Hi everybody, welcome to the Bunny Workshop. As you know, today we're actually going to be making the little bunny using the kit from the Crafty Kit Company. If you've met me before at any of the shows, you'll know I sell these kits, and I know plenty of you have asked me if I do workshops. So I figured this was the great way to do it, bring you into my workshop. Because what I would really like this to be very much like a workshop if you'd actually come to me, rather than it seeming like you're watching me on video. I know that's a bit impossible to do, but I thought I'd give it a go. But today we are basically focusing even, on our little bunny, and we've got a nice picture on the front of the box here, and here's my little bunny that I've made. So as you can see, many different variations, and no doubt yours will be different as well, because that's the great thing about needle felting. We can all do the same kit with the same wool, but ours will be individual, which is brilliant. Well, I think it's brilliant. Obviously, if you want to make something exactly the same as something that you've seen, then go for that too. Now, if you've got any questions at all, two ways to actually do this. You can write your comments underneath the YouTube video, and I will be notified that you've done that, so I can answer that. I also have a Facebook group called Ooops, Tips and Tutorials. If you want to ask to join that group, then you can ask any questions you like. I'm the only admin on that group, so yeah, just come in there and ask your questions, and I'll do my very best. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off going through everything you need to make sure you've got to get started. Now obviously we've got everything in the kit, and then there's a few items which might be handy to have, so we're going to go through those. Then I'm going to go through the workshop to actually create the bunny. Now this is obviously one of the easy peasy kits, so there could be some beginners, some real beginners doing it. So just to let you know, I will go through this and explain things very clearly as I go, but I've also done a little video entitled Needle Felting Basics. So if you go and find that, still under the Tutique channel, it will take you through all the details, how to stab, you know, how to pull things apart, all different parts of needle felting basics, so that perhaps you'll feel a bit more confident when you came in. Now if you just want to go for it, because as I say, I'm going to actually be explaining things, because this is in the easy peasy category. I want to make sure we bring everybody in. Obviously if this is like the second or third time, or you've done this kit, or you've done lots of other kits and you just want to do a little bunny, then that's the great thing about video, is you can just whiz along. Okay, so hopefully that's all good. And then right at the very end there's going to be a little section called Toots Tips. Tips in terms of perhaps different ways of doing things, little things you could bring in, but also like alternative endings, as I call it. So you know, you might want to go mad with colour. You might have some extra wool around that you might want to use, or different bits like that. Or it might be the second time you've done the kit and you'd like to do it slightly differently, but I'll put that at the end. Now my advice to you is watch this video all the way through, and then come back, play it again and felt along. only because you'll understand the different stages that you're trying to get to. Now in the kit you've obviously got the pictures, and we're going to follow along that process so you can actually refer to those pictures as well as seeing what I'm doing. But hopefully what this video will be just that added bit showing you how to get to that picture, because it's quite difficult obviously to include every piece of information in a set of instructions to fit in the kit. So anyway, hopefully you're excited to get started, and we will get on. I will just say that I have got an overhead camera, so an awful lot of this will now go to that camera so you can actually see my hands and exactly what I'm doing over here. Okay, let's get cracking. Okay, so here we are on the overhead camera, as I say. Now, just to go through that, you've got everything which you should have got that came in the kit. So you have got your core wool, you have got your bunny colour wool, you've got the dark accents, and you've also got the little pink accents. You've got your little stab mat, you have your tube which has got your eyes in, as well as your as well as your 3 needles. There you go. So extra bits, items that it will be handy to have. So number 1, scissors. So I've actually got my embroidery scissors because they're nice and small, and glue. This is my favourite glue, so this is the one that I've got. Masking tape. Now I haven't got masking tape myself, I've just got some sellotape, some ordinary sellotape, because this is just for, the idea is clasping 2 of the needles together, because basically if you've got 2 needles stabbing, it will be twice as fast. That's the idea. So you've got 3 needles, so a really good idea is for us to put these 2 together. Now what I suggest you do is like I've done, which is you've got your 2 little tails at the top, is that I put them in opposite directions so that they're basically hugging. There you go. And then get the tape. There we go. And just wrap it around. So as I say, no science really behind this. This is just a case of if you're felting with 2 needles rather than 1, it's going to be twice as fast, and when you're doing that beginning part, that's a good thing. Okay, there we go. That's wrapped all the way around, isn't it? I think that's fairly, and then I can hold them up there and stab away. Great. Now obviously if you're someone who's felted before, you might have one of the tools. I'm just going to stretch across here, something like this, which is a needle holder, dual needle holder, which you could use if you wanted to, obviously, but if you're a real newbie you probably won't have such an implement, so we will use these. Excellent. Right, now to start, I also have, as my added bits, is a little ruler, only because I'm going to give you the measurements of how long the little bits will be. For instance, if you look at your pictures and we start off doing a little sausage shape, and then we do a little egg shape. Now I've got ones that I've done earlier, and I just think it's a good idea if I'm able to say to you, right, you know, that should be 8 centimeters long, and then you will know that you've got it the right size, or at least roughly the right size, because as I say, this is not a science, this is an art. So it's not about getting it exactly right, but what we're trying to do is give you enough information so that you can replicate the picture on the front, and you want a little baby bunny indeed. So let me put those little pieces over there for a second. So yes, I've got that, and the only other thing that I have, well, it's kind of two things, because I have a business card folded in half, or just a piece of cardboard, because that will work. Only because when we do the ears, just so that we can felt those little corn edge bits and protect your fingers, so you can put the little wool in there, hold it and felt away without any chance of hurting your fingers, unless of course you've got some rubber thimbles around, and if you have, they're usually really good protectors as well. So let me just pop those over there. Great. So I think we have everything. I hope you have everything. If not, push this on pause and go and get the bits that you need. So we are on our way. So the first stage is that we actually want to use our core wool. So let's move our other bits out of the way. Don't need my sellotape anymore, so move that right out of the way. Put my eyes over there. Keep my little baby bunny there. And the only other thing that you might want to have is a picture of a baby bunny. Okay, now you might want to just use the picture on the box for reference, or sometimes, even though I mean it's a stylized bunny, it's not the pinpoint accuracy, so you don't need to go to the depths of, you know, the idea of having the picture is just so that you can see the overall shape, is what I'm trying to say, and not the intricate details. I just often find it helps me, even when I'm doing little pieces like this. Pen out of the way. Right, okay, so we have the white wool, which is our core wool. Now, bearing in mind, we are going to have to produce the body, the head, and a little tail, and perhaps some little fluffy chest, bits of white in the ears, things like that. We need to make sure we use the wool wisely. And also, if you split it up now, it gives you a pretty good idea of where you've got to in terms of the size and how much wool is expected to be used in each shape. Right, so first of all, fold it in half like I've done here. So this is your halfway point. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull it apart so that we've got two halves. Now, don't go and pull it there, because the length of each strand of wool will mean you won't be able to do that unless you are Samson. Go this far out so that you can pull, and then it just stretches apart. There you go. Don't worry about it being exactly a half, just pretty much as close as you can get to a half is good enough. Okay, so there we go. We got two halves. So one of those halves is going to be for the body. Now we have the head to do, which is about half the size, so it makes sense that we pull that apart in half as well. So that's halfway there. Take my hands there, pull, and off we go. So one of those is going to be the head, and then the other one is going to be for the bits and pieces for the tail, and the accents and things like that. Okay, good. So now we are starting. As you will see in your instructions, there is a picture of a little sausage shaped and sized ball, as it were. Not really a ball, but you know what I mean, shape. This is what we're going for. Now, as I say, I've got my ruler just to give you an idea that that is 8 centimeters long. Okay. So the important part when we're starting is we want this to be still a bit squishy, but you still need to make it fairly solid in the center. But what we don't want to do is to spend hours and hours trying to get that solid center when there's a much easier way. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you now. So with your length of wool, what we're going to do is tie a knot in it basically. Okay, so will it be better to fold it in half, or will we go? No. Okay, let's start with the longer piece. I think that, so just tie a knot halfway through. Okay, and then shimmy it so that it's up one end more than the other. So if you look at that, about 2/3 up, isn't it? Yeah, 1/3 in, 2/3 up that way, and pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it. That's nice and tight, isn't it? Right, now take the long end, do the same, pull the knot and pull it next to that other knot. Okay, put it next to, got it? There we go, nice and tight, nice and tight. Now, if I put that next to my little sausage, you can see that's a good old, well, it's over half, it's like 2/3 of the size of that, but it's a nice solid core before I've actually had to do anything to it. So I can now wrap, wrap the wool around, wrap the wool around, and when I finally got it to there, I'm just going to stab it with my 2 needles very lightly, just to keep it in place. There we go, very, very lightly, just to keep it in place. Okay, now I'm going to take the other tail and I'm going to wrap it back the other way. There we go, and now I'm going to just stab that into place too. Okay, now from a size point of view, you can see that it's pretty much the same length. So that is actually, well, it's 9 centimeters, so it's just a little bit too long, but not bad. So now what we're going to do is just stab that so it's a bit neater. So as I said before, if you're a beginner, we're using the 2 needles and you need to stab up and down, up and down. Don't stab in, move it and then bring it out, because that's how you're actually going to break your needles. Okay, you need to stab in, out, in, out. If you do it at an angle, go in at an angle, out at an angle, in at an angle, out at an angle. Okay, so the way you go in is the way you're going to come out. Also, obviously you want to protect your fingers. So I think when beginners first start, they, number one, go in and lift it up really high. So doing that from the side, you would go in and lift it really up high. So you don't need to, you can keep it really relatively low and just in, barely, in fact, lifting it out of the wool. And you're less likely to stab yourself if you do that as well. Okay, and also, you know, keep watching, don't watch TV while you're doing it. Right, so I'm just going to generally stab around the shape and make sure I'm neatening it up. I'm squidging it, I'm pushing it and lifting up little bits and with the looser bits and thinking, okay, where am I going to move you to? Because at the moment I could actually pull that apart. Okay, so I've got every opportunity to squish it around and make it go where I want it to go. So I'm just going to keep felting, stabbing with my 2 needles, because this is the core wool. We want to get it done as fast as possible. And 2 needles are great for that. There we go, stab, stab, stab. Don't you love that crunching sound? I love that. There we go. So I've got a kind of a rounded end there. Now, as we say, you don't need to felt it rock hard at this stage. It's never going to be rock hard, let's be honest. It's a bit of a thing, actually. People say, you know, how hard should I felt things? I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to you. If it's your piece, you felt it as hard as you want to felt it. But there are people who love to have them rock hard. Now, there are things, like I have done a horse where I needed to sculpt the muscles. I'm just going to interrupt myself here. As you can see, I'm slowly turning it and just stabbing it a bit more. Turn, stab, turn, stab, turn, stab. Yeah, in that way. Okay, anyway, back to my hard or soft. Yeah, so because I had to sculpt muscles, I obviously needed to felt it really, really hard. And that takes an awful lot of stabbing to do. But by the same token, I've made things like funky fish, and even actually my my little pug I did. He's very soft and cute and cuddly. So there is no you have to do it this way or that way. It's whichever way you want to do it. Now, I've been stabbing around. You see how I've just been rolling it around and doing it. And I've got quite a nice little sausage. Now I'm going to just tidy up the end bit a bit here. There we go. It doesn't have to be even both ends, because, you know, if you look at the picture of the little bunny, you know, he's got his little head on one end and his little tail shape and everything on the other. So it doesn't need to be symmetrical. Right, that's got quite a nice little sausage shape. Now, you have your 2 pieces over here. As I say, one half of that is for the head, so we're going to leave that aside. This one's going to be for many things. Now, what I suggest you do is just take half of that. Have you got a big half or a small half? Yeah, leave the big half, keep the small half. And then I'm going to just split it, only because I'm going to use some of this just to tidy this up. Because, you know, I've got a few ridges, a few bits and bobs. Now, because we're going to add top layers and everything, we're still going to be stabbing all the way through this project. So we're just going for that close to shape, but I still just want to tidy that up a little bit, just so that because the front bit, for instance, is going to be, which end ends up being the front, could be this end, could be that end, but that's going to be the little chest that I'm going to have as white, so I'm going to add some extra for that anyway. But here goes. So once again, what I'm going to do is just add it, just slightly stab this end just so that it's on. There we go. And then I'm gonna fluff it over so it's just nice and neat. Makes us feel better, doesn't it, if it's just a little bit neater. Every time you look at it you think, yep, that's okay, doing all right. There we go, just stab in the little end bits. And stab in that way, and I am just turning it all the time just to make sure that's nice and neat. So there we go. Let me have a little check. Yeah, it's about 8 centimeters. Still, as you can see, squishy, but because I did that 2 knots in the middle, I've got that nice core that I can feel. When I squidge it in, I go, oh yeah, I can feel that. That's brilliant. That's a nice, good, strong core in there. And as I say, the one that I'd made earlier, yeah, it's not exactly the same. Doesn't need to be. So, pop him over there. Brilliant. So now we're going to make the little head. So let's pop our piece there, and we're now going to leave that little piece over there, and your half that you put aside, you're now going to use that. And guess what? We're going to tie another knot in it. There you go. Because once again, it will just give us that little, I'm going to pick up my little example. It just gives you that, because I did it in this one, just gives you that little, nice little strength in the centre there. Because the little bunny that we're actually going to end up with, you know, we're going to add things all over it, but it just gives it that nice little strength in the centre. Okay. Okay. So let's tie our knot in it. There we go. Pulled that. If you hold it pretty close to the knot and pull, it will stay together. If you pull here, you'll pull it apart. So hold as tight as you can. And I'm just going to do another little knot next to it. There we go. Because basically, if you look at your little sausage, the head shape, let me move that out of the way so you can actually see it. The head is going to go from here and hang over. So let me just bring in my piece I've made earlier. So it's going to sit, yeah, there, so that it just slightly overhangs the edge. All right. So bearing that in mind, this knot that I've done, yeah, still smaller than is required. So by wrapping the wall around, that'll be great. Can we see that? Just making sure. Yeah. Bring our little felting mat in place. Okay, so once again, we're going to do a bit of wrapping. Let me just spread this out. Spread this out. And I'm going to just wrap that around. And once I've wrapped it around, get my 2 little needles. And when I just do this light, just slightly tacking. If you've done any sewing, you'll know about doing your tacking stitch. Well, this is your kind of tacking stab, really, just slightly so that it doesn't run away when you're doing your next bit. There we go. Take that little bit off. Okay, so where are we? I've got my bit up here. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stab that a little bit into shape before using that bit, because I'm going to use that little bit to neaten it up. So this is going to be in an egg shape, as per your instruction sheet. So I'm pretty much deciding as I go which end is going to be the big end. So let me stab this in here and then make some decisions about that. Okay, yeah, I think this end's going to be the big end, and then I'm going to go down to a smaller end the other side. Okay, so let me just stab that. So this is the bottom of my little leg, and actually is going to be my head, which is attached to the body. Okay, there we go. So I'm just tidying up this end a little bit because it's shaped like an egg, remember, and always thinking back to the picture that we've got of that little shape. Now, in fact, you know, when we look at that bunny shape on the picture, we can see that it comes over here and down a little bit further. So we just bear that in mind whilst we're making our kind of egg shape, but knowing that we're going to turn it into a bunny head. Still stabbing with our 2 needles. Nice and crunchy. And still feel my nice tight core piece. That was a nice little knot in the middle there. Once again, you can see I'm turning it around all the time so that I'm getting it nice and even. I'm not just hammering in one side, or even stabbing rather than hammering. Stabbing in one side so that it's rock hard on one side, and then I've got to try and catch up. Try and do it evenly as I go, and then it's not that difficult to match it up because you're doing it all at the same time. Okay, so where am I? Just going to go back to the big end, as it were, and just felt that in a little bit more because it was a little bit loose. You can see it was just a little bit loose there. Once again, it's just, there's no hard and fast way, but just thinking, yeah, make that. You can see how I can squidge a bit out there. I'm thinking, yeah, I'd like that in a bit tighter. Still got this bit to wrap it around to make it nice and neatly if I need to. If I don't need to, I can take it off. If I think, no, that's the size that I want. You don't have to use every bit of wool if you don't want to. The idea is there's enough there for you to use, and if you want to make any extra little bits like an extra fluffy chest and things like that, don't have to use it all. In fact, we're not very likely to use all of the pink or the dark colour. Not very likely at all. Right, okay. Let me get my little sausage. Okay, so as I say, I perceive for me that this end's going to be slightly bigger because this is going to be the chest, and this is where I'm going to put the little tail on. So as I said before, he's going to be about 5 centimeters, so I'm just measuring. Okay, so that should be to where my fingers are ending. So if I then just try and emphasize over there, yeah, okay, that side up perhaps, so that his face is a little bit thinner at the top, and then I can add the bits to make the cheeks. As we can see here, I can add those little pieces to the cheeks and the eyes later. Okay, so feeling okay about that. So I'm now going to just neaten it up. I'm going to move that piece, which is a part of that knot, just move that down there. Felt that on. Neaten that up. Once again, see, I'm not lifting it up high. Got a bit of a stray dark brown bit of fluff. I'm not doing it up high. I'm just felting it in, but I'm doing it all at the same angle so that I'm not breaking any of those needles. Keeping it nice and down and low. There we go. And I'm just going to do a little bit there. Okay. Brilliant. Now I'm going to fan the bit out. See the bit I've got left up here? I'm going to fan it out and just wrap it round what I have left, just to give that a nice little neat covering. Okay, still got my egg shape underneath there, and so I'm just going to lightly felt it in, not reshaping, just adding a nice little neat top layer, bearing in mind I'm going to put colour and everything on top here. Like I say, It's like all things really, isn't it? If you look at your piece of work and you think, oh, that's fairly neat, you feel better about it, rather than if you've got lumpy bumpy bits, even if there are lumpy bumpy bits, a bit like when you put an outfit on yourself, really. We all know we've got lumpy bumpy bits underneath, but as long as they're hidden, who cares? Okay, let's just, oh, I noticed I've got another stray hair in there. I'm going to leave that one because I'm going to be putting colour on top anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Just generally felting it over the top, covering it with that nice little neat. People say to me, do you stab yourself very often? And I always say not often. And the other day I was doing a live YouTube video and I stabbed myself, and you just think typical, really. Okay. But you always stab yourself when you're not concentrating. That's when I stab myself, which is why I'm highly likely, if I'm talking to you, I'm much more likely to stab myself because I'm not completely concentrating on what I'm doing. Right, let me see, that shape is looking quite good. Feeling fairly happy with that. So have a little measure. Okay, I've fluffed him out a little bit too much. It's a bit more than the 5 that I wanted. So I'm just stabbing that in the bottom part there, and I'm going to make that bit, because that's where his nose is going to go here. So I will be shaping that, obviously, or we will be shaping that, not just me. You and me together. There we go. Okay. Let's have another little look. Oh yeah, he's about 5. Like I say, this is an art and not a science. This one will look completely different to my first one, because that's just the way it is. That's the great thing. You just keep producing one-offs, which is jolly nice. All with their own little personality. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with that. Okay. So we have our 2 pieces. Okay. We are now going to join the head onto the body. Now let me put it the way round I was going to do it. So I'm going to have mine so that I actually have my big bit at the front, but I'm going to do it that way around, like that. So my, usually we'll have one end which is bigger than the other, basically, and this end is a little bit bigger than that end. So I've decided that I'm going to do it, that this end is my chest, so I'm going to put the head on here, and this end is where I'm going to add his little bunny tail, and where we'll actually define the legs. Okay, so how are we going to do this? So firstly, you just want to, let me take it away from the white. As I said, this bit is going to be almost halfway through, so it's going to be about there, and his little nose will then appear over the top. Okay, and we're going to take some pieces that we've had over here left over, and they're going to sort of more or less be the staples. But let me show you my little technique for doing this. So pull off, I'm going to start off by pulling off, I mean it's a wisp, isn't it really, and then I'm just going to split it slightly, so I've got 2 wisps. Okay, so let me put my little egg head there. Here's my little body, and this is where I'm actually going to put my head, and I'm firstly going to lay the, basically let me show you on the tablecloth. You can see I'm going to lay some wool that way, and I'm just going to stab it in the center there when it's in to the body, and then I'm going to put a weft the other way and stab it into the bottom, so that basically I've got that on there with bits out that I can then add the head to and wrap it round. So it's almost like a little staple, really. Well, that's the way I feel about it. Okay, so here we go. Got our 2 bits. So first bit, just laying it over that front half, yeah, on the top, and just going to stab it. Can we see? Just going to stab it down the middle, from the halfway down to the end, stab it in, just so that that is nicely anchored to the body, because we're going to wrap that around the head, and that's going to give us a nice grip. Okay, so that's that first bit. And then the second piece we're going to take the other way, so we've got a nice crisscross. Okay, stab that in, there we go, just a nice little, you see that? Yeah, so I've just got a nice little stabbed bit there. I'm now going to take my headpiece, and I'm going to say, right, I'm going to have that as just my smaller end as the nose, and that, you see how I can still squish him around and decide how I actually want to shape him. So I'm actually going to pop him on top, because that's how I'm going to have. Okay, so with thumb on bottom, finger on the top, I can hold him together, and I can start by just folding that top piece up and felting it onto the head, just lightly. I'm not doing it full force or anything, just get that tacked on there. Then I'm going to turn it over the other way, and I'm going to pull the bit from below up, and I'm going to tack that bit in there. Okay, now I've still got the front and back piece of waft, so let me see where I am, make sure I've got him where I want him to be. Okay, so you can still see his little fluffy collar here, so it's just tacked on. I could pull it off if I wanted to, but it's just there, so that I can now pull the back piece up over the top of his head, tack that down, there we go, and then the front piece just come up over the nose, there we go. I'm now just tacking all around the head, because I've got a few loose bits. You can see I'm not felting on the mat at the moment, because I want to actually show you exactly what I'm doing, but also that also shows you that I'm not felting when I'm stabbing. I'm not stabbing it all the way through. I am just going into my little knot. I can feel my little knot when I'm stabbing in, and that stops me from going too far. Okay, other side. Now I'm going to take another small piece, and I'm gonna just add it as a bit more of a strengthener of adding the top to the bottom. Okay, so just very lightly over the whole join and stab him in. Okay, I'm still keeping an eye on the shape. Always keep an eye on the shape of, you know, to a certain extent. It looks like a duck in the bath at the moment, doesn't it? With his little head and his little body, but that's fine. But just always keep an eye on that, so that you're not sort of completely flattening out. In theory, you shouldn't be able to, because we've got our nice little core knots in the middle, which stop us from doing that. Okay, I'm just stabbing that bit in round there. That's good. Also bear in mind, we are still going to put the colour on over the top. And I'm just going to put this bit over this side just to give that a bit of extra strength. Take my finger out of the way so you can see. Okay. Right. There we go. I think he's quite well. Give him a little shake. Yep. Doesn't look pretty, but he's on. And that's what we're going for here at the moment. But he's on. You may want to add a little bit of wool under the chin as well. We'll have a look at that in a minute. There we go. Just making sure. Yes, so we've still got a few little loose bits around here. There we go. So, do we need to put a little bit onto the chin bit there? Just to join those two pieces together so that we actually have the join just in there. I'm just putting it in that join with the two needles, stabbing either side. As I say, it doesn't have to look pretty. Just needs to be practical at this point. There we go. We are going to start on the ears. So this is where we start going towards the colour. So we've made our body and we need to now make our ears, because basically when we attach the ears, the wool comes around the side and it starts forming a part of the face. So it also helps us decide where we're going to put eyes and things like that. So the ears are a very important decision. And you can make all sorts of decisions with the ears, because it actually quite changes how the little bunny will look. For instance, if you look on the picture that you've got, they're quite straight up little ears. And if you look at mine, I've actually bent mine over like that. Okay, so let's grab ourselves a bit of the colour. We're going to start the ears. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is I'm going to lay the bunny wool, as I shall call it, the colour, and I'm going to lay it across like this. Now, as you can see with my ears, mine are slightly bigger than the ones on the picture. So you just need to decide really how big you want your ears. And that really is down to your artistic license. So once again, it's art, it's not science. You're going to get fed up with me saying that, I know. So to start with, I'm just going to take the single needle, because this is where, just with it out, it's quite thin at the moment. I'm just going to draw with my needle the shape that I'm going to do. So I'm just doing an arch at the top, ooh, there we go. My needle picked up the, can you just see? Okay, so the reason why I've done that is because I want to put a bit more over the top, and I want to put it that way, and I just want to put it down pretty much where I've drawn that and draw it over the top again. Now it might be that you would prefer to cut out a shape on a piece of cardboard as a little stencil, and use that to just draw around. Now, where I've been stabbing, you can, I think, just about see that little line. Okay, I'm going to fold that in. Very lightly stab down. In fact, I'm going to use my 2 needles here. Very lightly stab down. Yeah, taking care not to stab my finger, which is sitting in the way. Lovely. Okay, I'm going to pull that bit down where I was stabbing at the top. And if you have cut out a shape in a piece of cardboard, you can quite easily put it over the top here and just check that you've got the same shape. Okay, here we go. And finally, putting that over this way. Okay, here we go. Now, at the moment, quite a fluffy ear because we've got several layers of fluff. There we go. I'm just right. Okay, you can pretty much see the shape. Now what I am going to do, because bearing in mind he will actually be pinched in, all right? So let's just take it off my mat. And I'm going to turn him over and just stab him a bit the other side. Let me hold that down. Stab him a bit the other side. Now, what we don't want is to completely felt our ear into the mat. So that's why I'm trying not to go too deep. Just through. I can hear it crunch into the mat because obviously that's what's telling me to stop when I get that far. Okay, and each time I do it like this, it's getting a little bit thinner. Now, just press, press, press. Got a little bit of matter there. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it in my hand. I'm going to put my hand over the top and I'm going to rub it. I'm going to rub, 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 rub. Just to flatten some of those fibres. Okay. One little top tip, which I will say now, is once you've actually felted this a little bit more, if you're a bit frustrated about the fact that you can't get him thin enough or as thin as you want him, because let's be honest, it's only as thin as you need him to be for you. If you want to get yours thinner, if you've got any hair straighteners or just an iron, it's perfect. Hair straighteners, just heat it over the top. It will basically crush the fibres down and make it nice and flat. But it's usually nice to have got a good bit of felting in before you do that. And in a minute, I'm going to show you why I brought the business card in to the whole situation. Okay. See, now that's a good start as far as I'm concerned, because I'm going to shape him a bit at the top. Yep, so that's sort of pretty much the size I want him to be, because these bits are going to be used to attach. Okay, now let me get my business card. This is where I am going to put him inside the business card with just the top edge, yeah, showing out. And I'm then going to take my needles. In fact, I'm going to use one needle, and I can just stab in the edges. And this will neaten up those little edges. The folding over, the great thing was doing the stabbed line and then folding over. That gave us a fairly neat edge. But this just enables us to tuck in a few bits and actually just strengthen up that edge rather than having it a bit too fluffy. And with the business card to protect our fingers, we can do this to our heart's content. This also helps us shape it how we want to, because this is how I'm going to get the top bit how I want it to look in a second, because mine just a little bit too pointed, I think. So once I've done this side, I'm going to turn it around and have a look at that. Okay, so that shape, I just need, if I look at my little bunny, yeah, he was a bit more rounded. That's a bit square, isn't it? And in fact, if you think about it, what I might do is just pull it out a little bit. Yeah, so this is where we can manipulate our bits into shape and say, yeah, quite like that bit, just a little bit out there, pull it to where I need it to go. Okay, now the other side, I'm going to put my business card in and stab that side into submission. Nice and neat. Yeah. Just sometimes these little bits, they take up quite a bit of time, but it just gives you that look that you're after. Okay. And it's worthwhile, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It's worthwhile taking the time, getting that, because bunny's ears are quite a feature, aren't they? Bunny's ears, bunny tails, bunny eyes. So let me turn him over. If I had squished that up, yeah, so, and if you notice, because I had a bit of a curl on mine, I basically kept pulling it like that as I was making it, thinking, yep, that's how I want him to be. I want him to have his nice little curl. Okay. So, because I know I want that to do that, I can do that right from the get-go. Okay. Now then, let me use my 2 needles again, because what we're going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit of white and a little bit of pink into the center here to give that little detail. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. A little bit of white, and really is a little bit. I'm just taking a little bit of wisp, lay it on. Yeah, just so, take your 2 needles, just have a little light stab over, because we're going to put some pink on the top as well. So I'm not too worried. There we go. Just a nice light little stab. Let's get a bit of pink. There we go. A little bit of pink. Put that over there. There we go. So pink on the white just gives you a nice little detail in the center of that ear. Now if you look at the picture, and also if you can still see my little bunny there, on the edge of those ears is a little bit of dark as well. Now I think it would be quite a good idea for us to put that in now, rather than waiting for him to be on the bunny, because then we can get our ears as close to how we actually want them to be, can't we, before we put him on his bunny. Okay, I'm just doing the other side. There we go. There we go. Once again, I'm just aware that I want to, okay, going to neaten up the little edges again. I mean, if it comes down to it, that's one great thing actually about using the iron or the hair straighteners, is that so solidifies it that you can just snip the edges off that you don't want really. I mean, you can pretty much do that now. So for instance, if you're really quite struggling with getting the edges in, you can just, you know, not chopping the whole thing off, but you can just neaten up your little edges like that if you wanted to. Yeah, it's completely up to you, and this is the point. This might be the first time you've ever done one and you just want to finish a nice project, or it might be the third time you're doing one and you'd really like to get a lot of detail in. So that's why it's completely up to you how you want to play that. So I'm just going to take a little piece of the dark, because you can see here we've got a nice little darkish effect around the ear here, and if you look at your picture on your kit, that also has it. So I am just going to put it around that little edge there. So I'm just going to get the smallest little strand, well, it's more than a strand, but it's a wisp, and I'm just going to pop that on the edge. Yeah, hold it out to the side, plenty of room to get my fingers in. That's the inside, so I've got the little light pink, and I've added a very delicate light and pink. You might want to add more. You might want to really emphasize the colors in the ear. You know, you might even want to have it as pink as a pink thing because you love pink. That's good too. It's all good. It's all just what you want to make it. There we go. Getting that colour in there. I'll just say, at the moment, this can still be as many decisions as I'd like him to be. Okay. I can squish him out, wrap him around my finger a bit, make the shape that I want, put it between my hands, rub it, which is basically the equivalent of doing an iron, but a very light one. Yeah, see? There we go. And when we get round to adding him onto the ear, we're basically going to pull those bits together, and then that's going to go around. Okay, you see how he goes on there like that, so you basically pull those bits together and then this comes around here. So on ours, okay, and you pull all those bits together, let me show you, pull those bits together and it goes around the ear. You see, that's how we're, because the ears are usually just very slightly turned out, aren't they? So that's why you can play around with, you're going to bend it. It should be thick enough that it does actually bounce back up. Okay, if it's still a bit flimsy, then just get your needles, stamp it back, or if you're really struggling, as I say, use the iron or use the hair straighteners. I use them all the time when I need to get a really, really thin piece. In fact, when I used it for the feathers of the kestrel that I did, I used an iron stroke hair straighteners. I keep wanting to say curling tongs hair straighteners, just to flatten it out. Makes a huge difference. Okay, so let me I'm gonna just play around with my little ear till I get him how I want. I'm gonna make another one. So I'm going to leave you to make your second ear, and I shall meet you back here with 2 ears so that we can attach. And this time we're actually going to cover the bunny with a layer of light brown bunny wool, and do it in thin pieces rather than just one big all the way around. You can gradually pop it on, and also I think it would be quite a valiant effort to actually do the whole lot all at once rather than smaller shading, and you can get an idea of the shading and where you'd like it to be. So I'm going to pull off some smaller pieces, and also whilst we're doing this we can pay mind to the shape. So bearing in mind, this is my shape for my one that I've done, and this is my new one, and we can see that on my one that I did firstly, I've built up a piece on top there. So this piece here has got a bit more on it. If you look behind, I've actually filled out the bottom where we've got the back legs. So I'm going to be doing that with this lovely rabbit colour or bunny colour. Okay, so let's start. So let's start layering with a nice, let's just give you a nice layer over the back like that, and stab that into place. Now, as I say, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be building up these areas a bit in a minute, but I just like to get a light layer all the way over, and then I can assess it and decide where I'm going to put my extras. So there we go. Just once again, I'm moving it around, just having a look, stabbing it in. Okay, let's take another piece that I pulled off. This time I'm just going to lay it down the side. Now, bearing in mind we're going to, well, I'm going to put a nice little white chest, and there'll also be little white cheeks and things here, so I'm not going to bring it right the way over, but I do want to get this front piece, so I'm just going to tuck that under a bit. There we go. Let's tack on a bit more. Doesn't have to be, bearing in mind this is a fluffy bunny, so we're not going to felt it, you know, thick and hard like we would if we were doing perhaps something like a toad or a frog, where we were trying to get that leather kind of skin. Bunny is a fluffy bunny, so it would be quite a genuine effect to have not felted it to within an inch of its life. Just all the way around, paying mind, turn him over, take another light piece, tuck it over there to the front, lovely, to the back. So once again with our 2 needles, so we're getting 2 for the price of 1 here in terms of stabbing effect. There we go. Find our little bits of vegetable matter in there, just take those out. Okay. Lovely. Right, now let's concentrate a little bit on the head. So my head here, I actually ended up doing quite a bit of shaping around the cheeks. I sort of built up the cheeks after I'd actually put the eyes in. So what we're going to do here is just give our little one here a general covering, making sure those ears are on good and proper, and then we can actually do any build-ups that we want to. Okay. Okay, so let's take that little piece, put it in over there to start with. So we tack that down the back. Yeah. A little bit of stabbing there. Down the other side. Like I said, just making sure we've got a nice bit of covering of the colour. I'm going to bend my little ears in a bit there because they're going to, now I'm going to split that. You see that? Sorry. I'm going to split that and move it down the sides and then catch the side of the ear. You do not have to put your layering on exactly the same way that I am. This is just my version of it. If you fancy going your way, go for it. Right. Now, another piece. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go over the top, but I want to actually still incorporate a bit of the ear in. So where I actually had, I'm going to just tuck it over a little bit so that it makes sure I'm really anchoring those ears on. Plus, hopefully, I'm covering a bit of the join detail that I could see on the ear. Okay, now then, I'm going to tack that in a bit more, that ear. Put a little more over the top there. There we go. It's all playing around. Now, I said, if I suddenly go, oh, I don't really like that, I can pull him about a bit. Make sure he's the same as the other side because I've moved him a little bit different. Or am I going to move the other side a bit? Just pull him about. Pull him about until you've got him where you need him. Okay. Just tacking that ear in so it looks a bit more like the other side. Grab a bit of wool. Get that little bit of veg out. There we go. Over the top. Meet in the middle. Having a look at my little fluffy ears. Slightly one higher than the other, but that's fine because I quite often comb mine over anyway. But I want them roughly the same size. I might even do a bit of flopsy. Who knows? Who knows when I get to that point? Okay, so once again, I think I'm going too far to the front of the desk here today. Go. It's amazing how quickly that little bunny shape starts to come together once you put this covering on. Yeah, you start to see your bunny. There we go, a bit more fluff in that. Okay, now then, I think I want to give a little bit more of a neck detail, so I'm just going to stab in there a bit. Stab in that bit there and there. Okay, I've just heard someone pick up the phone in the other room. Hopefully you can't hear that conversation. Okay, here we go, pushing that around, just pushing it around, literally just playing around with the shape, deciding where I want the ears, the face, having a little stab, having another look, having a little stab. Once again, bear in mind, you can always add bits. As I say, it's like sculpting. You add bits, and at this stage, take bits away if you need to. Okay, here we go. Now, I think, I've got myself quite a nice big head there, haven't I? Let me tuck that under there a bit. Just give a bit of definition. I'm going to probably put a bit of white over the top there, to be honest. But what I need to do is to give him, I think, slightly bigger end. I need to get some legs on there. Right, so how am I going to do that? This is how I'm going to do that. I'm literally going to fold over. So I've got a little pillow. Just going to do a little bit of tacking down just so it doesn't spring up. Okay. And I'm just going to plop it, literally just plop it back on the hind quarters there. Okay. Literally just plop it there. Stab all the way round. I'm not stabbing in the middle at the moment. I'm just stabbing around the edges. Get it on. Around the edge. Around the edge. Give it a look. There we go. Lovely. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Nice little floofy pillow. Put it over, put it over, put it over again. Very lightly, really am just very lightly stabbing that. So it's a nice little poof once again. Slap that on the other side and felt in round the edges. Just to give him a nice little hind quarters there. You can add shapes wherever and whenever. Here, it's a free-for-all really, and if the shape that you had got didn't need this, then don't add it, but mine certainly did. There we go. Just tap once again. In my little edges. Just giving it a little go in the middle there. Not because I want to squash it completely in, but just to have it on. Okay. Yes. Giving myself a nice little bottom. Now what I'm going to do here is I just want to make that neck a little bit smaller. So look, I'm just pushing him in, and this time when I'm pushing him in, I'm going to felt with my needle. because I just want to make that a little bit tighter in there, so you didn't have such a thick neck basically. There we go. And the back. Again, there we go. Like I say, just keep stabbing in if you think needs a bit of work, changing the shape. Basically, you just keep stabbing in one area. So like for instance here, I want to create that so it's deeper. If I just keep stabbing in that area, it will go further and further in, a bigger and bigger crease. Okay. Just going to make those two closer together a sec. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, looking at my one again, I think I had a little bit just coming up there. Up the back. Just a little bit there coming up to create that slight little movement into there. So I'm just going to add a bit there. There you go. Stab myself. Should have been more careful. Just goes to show we all do it. No blood. Lovely. There we go. Because we put that light little covering all over, the great thing here is we're adding bulk, but we're adding bulk in the same colour, and at the same time we can make sure we're covering up any join marks that we've got. But we know we've got that little covering, so we don't need to worry about perhaps leaving a gap. There we go. I'm just making sure it goes in a downward motion to that bit there. There we go. A little bit of poof, a little bit of fluff. Lovely. There we go. Going to have a dinky little nose, so what I'm going to do here is just place my little face here and stab, but stab it along that triangle, do you see? Because basically our little face here is coming into this little triangle, yeah? Okay. So let's see if we can get that. Just by stabbing along that triangle. Okay. You can leave these details and just get a nice little basic nose on if that's what you want to do. You do not have to go to the nth degree if you're happy with your shape. See, I'm happy with my shape now. And by the time I've got the eyes in and added a little bit to the cheek, there'll be quite a difference there. So I'm quite happy with that. And hopefully you're quite happy with yours. Now I'm going to just check he's okay underneath. And a little bit of neglect there, so let's just pop a bit right underneath there. Not too thick. Little bunny rabbits quite often are lighter underneath. There we go. So what we're going to do now is going to use a bit of the dark wool to add some definition on the little places where we've added our thighs, around the neck. Okay, so what that means is around our thighs, around the neck. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a wisp and then we're going to split it. I'm going to split it a little bit again. So we really do have quite a small piece. Let me show you that on there. So we really do have quite a small piece. Okay. And I'm going to put this round here. Bearing in mind, we can add some more at any stage. Let me pick up the two. And let's squish those together tighter. There we go. Just in that little line, that little curve where we put them round, just stab those in place. Do you see? Now, if you look at it now and think, oh gosh, that's a bit dark, at the moment, don't worry about it, because you might do a little bit of an adjustment in a bit, add a bit more fluff, and then it's not so dark. But if at the end you think, oh, that's a bit dark, because sometimes I like it to be just a slight whisper of the colour, we can lay some more of the little bunny rabbit light brown colour over the top of it, and that will just give us the look we want. But I'm going to leave it for the moment because we may change our mind by the time we get there. Okay, so once again on this side we've got a little round area where we add our little cushion for the, have a little check up there, make sure we've got it even, yeah, round that, round there. Okay, let's take another little whisper. Lovely. Let's say 2 needles again, just stab them round into that little groove. This is just decoration, it's not holding anything in place, so we don't need to worry about felt hard. It's just a nice little accent. And as I say, if I come back later and think, oh, just a little bit too much there, I will, to my finishing touches, add a little bit of the brown. See how I continue to go around tidying up bits that I've done before, always looking to see the bits that I've done before. Okay, so that's our little back legs. Now I'm going to put a little bit of the brown around the neck, and I'm going to bring it around to just about here. Yeah. Just gives that little act in there, just accentuates it a bit. Okay, and the other side. There we go. Just giving that nice little accent. A little bit of shading. There we go. Lovely. Now we're going to do our little fluffy tail. That's exciting. It's starting here and coming up here so that it looks like a nice little bobtail. So that's what we're going to do. We don't need much for this. Okay. So I am going to, let me do it on here so you can see it better. I am going to roll him up. Roll, 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 roll. You see how? Just rolling him up, rolling him up, rolling him up. And then I'm going to load him onto my mat. Just give him a light little stab, hold down this end so I don't stab myself. There we go. Random hair, a little piece of the dark that we were doing earlier. There we go, so that's nice, isn't it? Now I don't know about yours, but mine's still lovely and fluffy. So, and I'm going to just turn over the edge, this end. I'll show you again, just literally just turn him in. Yeah, turn him in there. Just felt that little end bit in. Just so it's not a bit of fluff sticking up. The other end I'm going to leave fluffy. Okay, the other end I'm going to leave because that's going to attach into the bottom area. Just do this. If you're worried about your hands being too close, just use your little card. Yeah, hold it in place and do that. Don't do as I do, do as I say. I think it's probably the best course of action. So there you go. He's just lightly felted. And then I'm going to place his little tail here. Now, how am I going to? I'm going to actually bring, because I'm going to decide how far I want it up, really. So if I put him there. So I'm going to have it say finishes about here. So let's put that there and tack that in to start with. Let's put those two tighter together, and I'm going to tack it in by pushing it in and just go up and down. There we go, without bringing it all the way up, and I'm not going like this. I'm just keeping it down, tacking it into the same place. Okay, so now I'm going to do like we did with the poofy back legs. I'm going to just felt around the edge because I still want it to be quite a poofy tail. So I don't really want to felt in that centre. I don't really want to felt in there. I want to just do it round the edge here in place. And then I will still have a nice little fluff ball, because he's a baby bunny, remember? Baby bunnies have lovely little tails, don't they? Okay, and the tail that's got coming underneath, just going to tack that in underneath there. Okay, just tack that in. Can we see that? Just tacking that on the bottom there. Yeah. And I'm just checking everything else down here is good. Yeah. There we go. Nice little, have a look at his little tail. Decide, let me get my little single one a minute. Just decide if I want to rearrange it at all. If you want to, you know, move him out, just use your little needle very lightly. We don't want any broken needles. There we go. I'm just flouncing him a little bit. There we go. And then he's got his nice little cotton tail, bobbin tail. There we go. Okay, so I think what we're going to do now is just put a little bit of fluffiness on that chest bit. Okay, there we go. Yeah, because he's going to have a nice fluffy little chest. So here we go. Too much. Let's start with a smaller piece and pull it, pull it, pull it. So I've got a nice little bit of fluff. Okay, and then I'm going to lay it across that front chest, just lightly tack it on giving us that nice little light fluffy chest. Okay, tack it into the top. Do it whichever. If you want to have more of a white bunny, then you make it bigger, but I'm just going to do this little bib. Okay, and this bit that's bent up, I'm just going to bend it down. There we go. Just using a single needle because I just want it nice and fluffy. If I'm worried it's going to come off, I'd use my double needle, but as I say, this is decoration. This isn't holding him together. You see how he's just got a fluffiness? There we go. How sweet is that? So now the very important face. Now the first thing I like to do is to pinpoint my eyes. Okay. Now if you look at your pictures of your bunnies that you might have, you've got your ears and a very small gap, and then the eyes, and then we're going down towards the nose. So we're talking end of ears, and then we're going to have our eyes here. Okay, so I'm just literally going to put my needle in there, and then I'm going to look from the top. Okay, and I'm going to think, well, is that to the top? How am I going to get that cheek underneath? Is it in the right place? I think I'm just going to move mine down a bit, put it there. I've got my two needles over here that I'm going to try and copy that. From the front, he's there. From above, he's there. So it's about there. Okay, so that's where I'm going to put my eyes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to mark where we're going to put the eyes. And really, if you look inside your tube of your eyes, let's take the lid off. Easier said than done. Lovely. We've got these lovely amber eyes. They may be exactly as you want to use your eyes. Brilliant. Okay. Or you may like to use darker eyes, now like I've got here. Now, these eyes are exactly the same as these eyes. I've just put dark wall behind. Now, as your instructions say, you could actually just paint the back with polish, and that will darken them up. Or, in my case, I'll circle where they're going to go, and then put a dark piece of the wall. Okay, that's where he's going. Let me just take that out. Let me just, oops, sorry, need to forward. Let me stab around it a bit, because we just want to have a little notion of where that eye's going to go. Okay, take that out. Now I'm going to stab a bit. What I actually want is a nice indent, because I want to put my dark colour there, and then I'm going to put a hole in the centre where the little wire from the centre of your eye is going to. So regardless, if you want the colour the same, it's still good to do this little hole, because little bunny's eyes are indented inside, So it just gives it that little bit more life, rather than a felted creation with an eye stuck on top, basically. Very happy with that. So, still playing around with my ears, if you notice. I keep going, ooh, I feel like I'm gonna turn them a bit, but hey, stop playing with the ears, Steph, concentrate on the eyes, getting sidetracked. So let me just note where it is opposite. Good. So that's going in there, opposite. Let's do the other side. Okay. Now once again, we're doing this right the way through to the other side. We're just going half and probably make a knot again. Go. So tighter. There. So then let me have a check. Make sure it's in the same place. I apologise if I put my head in the way occasionally, get carried away. I will keep checking the camera to make sure you can still see. Okay, that's good. Okay, so there we go. Let me put my little thumb and finger and make sure, yeah, that's the shape that I'm after. I like that shape a lot. So, okay, I am now just going to start my needle. Better show you this way, hadn't I? Keep my fingers away from this side. So I'm going to put my needle in there. Come all the way through the other side. I'm looking because I just want to bring it out exactly where the other one's going to go. Okay, now I'm going to push it all the way through because I do actually want a little hole that I can put my little eye. Okay, so making sure I'm making a nice little hole. See how that works. That goes in nicely. Yeah, quite happy with that. Bearing in mind I'm going to do some little shaping around it. Quite happy with that. Hold that in. Now then, I can see where that was. Just going to put that all the way through. Obviously not where my finger is. Pop that in that side. Okay. Yes, like that. Like where they are. Good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, for me, some of the dark, just a little splodge, fold it over. So literally a little splodge, and I'm going to take that eye out and I'm going to felt that on there. Hold that down slightly, put those two little needles together into that eye socket. Just checking I've got that in there. Giving it that dark background which will darken up my eye. Once again, if you don't have a dark eye, if you just want it nice and amber as it is, just leave it the way it is and you can ignore this step. So once again, this is one of the really good reasons for watching it all the way through, so you can decide how you want to play it, whether you want to follow this particular instruction or just keep it natural. There we go. Just get my little single needle here. Nicely in. Excellent. So I'm going to need to redo my little hole. Now I'm just moving it about a bit because I've squidged him a bit. Lovely. Once again, let me remind you that I'm going to, because of my pushing around, I'm going to add a little bit of floof there for the cheek. So we've got a nice puffy cheek. Okay. Right, so let's just shape that there. It's all about the shaping for the face and the shape that you want. You can keep it as basic as you want. You don't have to do all this floofing, as I call. If you don't want to, just move that through there. Nice hole. There we go. Put that in there. Do that again, I think. Get that the way I wanted it. I'm going to move it slightly to the back rather than the front. I think that was my mistake. Yeah, oh yes, that's. You see how that's darker than that one over there? Not completely black, just nicely darker. Okay, happy with that. And by the time I've just put a little bit of fluff over the top, because you see how on here I've given him eyebrows and a cheek. We will do that on this little fella too. Okay, so let's do the other side. Let's do that again. Let's do our hole through the center. As I say, lesson learned to the back. There we go. Move that around just because you've got that nice thick bit at the back of the needle to do that with. Let's see. Pop that in. To maybe go down a bit with that. Perhaps I went a little bit too high. Okay. Do it again, a little bit lower, through, there we go. There we go. It's kind of in the right place, so that's nice and darker. Like I say, if you want them to be even darker, just go ahead and use some nail varnish and paint the back. I quite like that. That's great. Okay, so before I start looking at the cheeks and the eyebrows, let's just have a look at his little nose. Okay, so your picture, and also we look here. We've got a little V for his little nose, and a little line little Y basically, a little V, a tail, yeah? It gives us that little Y shape. So let's try and do that here. So the middle is going to be about there, isn't it? Just try and pinpoint where that's going to be, and then do a little V shape up, a little V shape. This is us just looking to say, do we like that? And we would go down with the tail. I can hardly see that, so let me come in there with my tube in the other direction. Okay, yes, squidging round a bit. Okay, so on mine I'm going to have, in the same way as we've got on the picture here, I'm going to have a nice little brown nose down to here, and then we'll do a little black mark to accentuate. Now you might want to put a little pink on there as well, but we'll start off with a brown. So bearing in mind we are having this V shape, this little V shape, what we'll do is we'll get quite a small piece here because we don't want to build up that nose too much, is we will fold this into a V. Yeah, so just fold it over so that you've got a very slightly little V shape, yeah, and pop that over. That front of the V where we slightly marked it on the nose, just tack it in there, tack it in. Okay, that's once again nice and deep, not putting it out too far, just going in on that V bit. And then I'm going to once again do the outside area so that I'm basically defining whereabouts that nose is going to go, where we kind of marked it with our needle. And see, okay, yeah, I've got a little V, and I'm still going to keep felting down that. Just got my single needle this time because I just want to do it nice and slowly so that I'm happy with it. Okay, and then I'm slowly going across, but then on the edges, yeah. Slowly going across, do a lot more at the edges. And a bit of floofing. Okay, there we go. Now just turn him upside down so that I can make sure I've got that bottom of that V in. It's also, upside down is a really good way of checking you've got things symmetrical, because you can see it good and proper, rather than when you look at things the right way up, you see your mind fills in the gaps. When it's upside down, it really is just a shape, and you can properly see whether it's in the right place or not. Okay, it's looking better. I'm just lightly stabbing away here, always bringing them in to that little V shape. Right. Now I've got obviously a nice little bit over the top, which I'm just going to stroke up to the top of the head and felt that in place. We are going to give him some cheeks. Now as we can see on my one, I did do rather large cheeks, so we don't have to actually go that large on here, but as you can see at the moment we've got rather a lot of eye and not so much in the face. So sometimes it just depends. You may have left yourself with a nice big area there and not need to do this. But let me just show you how you add the cheek. I've actually already done it to the other side, so you can see that's the effect that we're going for, just so that it covers a slight bottom of the eye, and we are going to put a little eyebrow over the top. Okay, so here we go. Take yourself a nice little piece of wool, nice small, more than a whisper, but not quite a big weft. Fold it over. Okay, you see how I did that? Fold it over that way, and then we get a nice little pillow of wool. Now we're going to just place that on the cheek where the fold is this end and wispy bits either side, and put it on the cheek like that. You're going to start by just that top edge, felting it with our one needle into the bottom of the eye socket. Okay, so just gently popping those in. There we go, bringing those over, felting it down, but not excessively. Then I'm going to turn it upside down, and the bottom edge, just going to hold it with my thumb, going to felt just above our little brown line that we put in, the little accent. Okay, so we're just going to felt it there and bring that bit round, just the bottom edge, the nicely curved folded bottom edge of our pillow, just lightly tacked into the bottom. Now I'm going to have another go at the top. Bring you around here, do a bit. So that's a bit better felted in. Bring you round. There we go. So this nice single needle, do it nice and slowly. Get to see what it looks like. Make some decisions. Decide whether you like it. And then do it some more. Okay, there we go, all the way round that bottom eye. Now, let's have a little look. Well, we've got quite a puff here at the front. So, in fact, the way we want it is we want more puff at the top and it to be curving down towards the neck. Okay, so what we're going to do is just hold it down halfway. What I'm doing is moving the fluff to the top, and I'm just going to felt that bottom half just lightly again, so just the one needle, just so we're basically making it thinner at the bottom. Then we have at the top, then we have a look at the top. Bring that into play. At the front, we're just going to stab that lightly here towards the middle so that it's blending down from the puff cheek. Yeah, so put your finger there if you want to make sure you don't go beyond that. Nice and lightly again. Okay, and just put any little strap. Just going to bring that over there. It's very nice. Okay. Okay, once again, I've got more poof at the bottom, so let me just felt a little bit in the bottom half. There we go. It's just about deciding if we flatten down the cheek to the back. There we go. You see how at the start you think, oh, how's that going? You can move it around. You can move it around. What I did on the other side seemed to just go into place. This one I'm having to do a little bit more thought and what am I doing where, but okay, let's have another look. Oh yeah, see? Now just a bit of perseverance, a bit more down the bottom and the top, and now I've got a nice little puffy cheek. Yes, very happy with that. Good, good. Okay, I will be putting a little white bit here, so I'm not worried too much at the moment about the little joins, because we shall do a big check of all that before we finish. Playing with my ears again, don't I? Don't I just always? Okay, so now we're going to do the little brow, the little eyebrow. Now, here. What we need to do is we need to do a nice little roll. If we look at this one, you can see we've got a nice little brow there. Okay, so what we're going to do, let me get a little bit more. So we're going to get a piece of wool like this, and we're going to just fold it over the once. Okay, and then you're just going to lightly stab, not right at the very edge. Okay, just lightly, because what we want to do is to create a kind of a little bit of a ridge that we can turn into the eyebrow. So just along a straight line, just that far away, just stab a little line and then roll it over. Roll it over on that line and then just lightly stab into the back, that little roll that we made. Okay, so we really do have a bit of crispiness, but it's much thicker here. I can feel the little spongy, and then it just floats away. Okay, so here we go. Now we've placed it on the eye. We want this side to go in this corner of the eye, so we're just going to lightly tack that in, and this side is going to go over this side, and we're going to lightly tack that in, and that bit will be a bit floaty to start with, but it's just so that we've anchored down our two sides. Once you've anchored your two sides, you can now see you need to fit all this around the top, so we're just going to lightly push in. Ooh, a little bit of wildlife there. We're going to lightly push in the edge of our eyebrow in the top part of our head. And once we've tacked it in upside down like that, I'm going to turn it out the right way. Okay, And then I'm going to say, right, how much of the eye do I want covered? Do I want him quite small, or do I actually just want to give him a nice little covering? Up to you, what you do. Completely up to you. Looking from the front, deciding where I actually want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give, if I push that down with my needle, I can see kind of what that will look like. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tack that down there, that little line. As I said before, I can change my mind if I decide I made a terrible decision. There we go. So I'm going from that corner again, right the way round to that corner again. It's nice and fluffy. Yes. And then just tack down. That was nice and flimsy, that end, wasn't it? There wasn't much substance to this bit that I'm doing here on top of the head, which is great. So it just gives a little bit of colour, but doesn't add to the bulk. Right, now that I've done that, I can have another look at my little eyebrow and say, well, perhaps that's just a little bit too bulky. So I'm just going to slightly, say with my one needle, so not going mad, just lightly stabbing, having a look, seeing what it looks like, lightly stabbing. Have a look. See, I quite like that. I quite like that. In fact, I like that better than my first one. There you go. See, different every time. Brilliant. Okay. That's good. So now we just need to do it on the other side. Nice to check what have we done. Yes, that's very. And then just neaten up that edge again into that top of that eye. There you go. Looking at him from the front. Yeah, we like that. Okay, brilliant. So now I'm just going to give him just either side of his little nose. So the little white piece that we've got either side, just to give him a little bit of, not bulk even, it's just, that gives him sweet, he's got his sweet cheeks, and that just gives him his nice little sweet nose. Okay, so let's not go too mad. So let's put it on there, see, a piece like that. I'm going to put it across so it looks a bit like a moustache. Okay, just felt that just under the tip. In fact, this will be the bit that we'll put the a little stripe basically down from that tip. We're just putting this anchored in there, so we will be putting the little dark accent on top of where we're felting in here. So again, let's do that nicely and in. There we go. In. You can do this just a little bit more. So I won't worry too much because I know I'm going to put my little dark brown bit on top. Okay, so now I just want to give myself, in fact I'm going to do it so that it doesn't shine on the white mat. Just going to slightly roll him up, yeah, so that he's got a little folded over piece there, and I'm just going to felt that edge once again, just tacking it down this side because I've put that V in, so I know I don't want to go over that, so I can easily make sure I'm felting that on that side of that. I can tack that down there. There we go. Let's look at this way up, make sure. So keep looking, making sure it looks okay. As I say, it's a bit exaggerated at the moment. I've still got the roundedness that I wanted. Felt all the way. Still make sure I don't go onto the nose. All the way over, so as to felt it down a bit. Still want him to be nice and fluffy. Yeah. There we go. Let's have a little look at him. Still just a little bit too much. Okay, let's do the other side. Go. Little bunny. Isn't he cute? Okay. Slightly bigger than the other, so we'll move that a bit. So as to make that even Stevens. Okay. And then we'll do our finishing touches. There we go. He's a little cutie, isn't he? So let's use our little brown accents again to give us the little line on the little bottom of the triangle. There. That in. There we go. Now, chop off the excess. Let me get my sort of two needles here. Squish them together a bit. Back to the one. There we go. Down. Down. Tack him down. We need to just give ourselves a little bit of emphasis along our Y front, as it were. So we've got our little V next to the nose here, and if you want to, you can put a little pink on that nose because he's a little baby bunny. Well, I think even some adult bunnies have bits on their nose actually. But it's completely up to you. Decisions. You might put him down and then come back and have another look and think, oh, I'm going to add that. I do that quite a lot. I finish something and then I come back the next day and I think, oh, I think I'll add that. I think I'll add this. There we go. So now he's got a nice little cute little nose. Isn't he just a sweet little bunny? Now remember me saying you've done your line a little bit too strong here. Now I actually quite like mine, but I am actually going to show you that if you think, oh, that's just a little bit too strong, I did it too dark, don't worry about pulling it off. Just get yourself the thinnest piece of wool and pop it over the top and to either side, and then basically just gets a really light dusting over the line itself, and it will make it just that little bit less obvious, which saves you pulling off and redoing something. You can just add a tiny bit. More painted, more accented, more little shadow, as it were. There we go. So I could have my little flopsy ear. So here, because we've actually got quite a nice little bit of strength in the ear, you can pull it about, yeah. You can, and this is how I go into the bending. I would just use my fingers to smooth it out a bit and then have my little bend, okay? And think, yes, that's how I'm going to have that. And this is where you look around just at the end and think, right, are there any areas I just want to tidy up? Do I think I should stab it in a bit more anywhere? Cover up any of the seams of where I've added things like the ears. Perhaps even you just think you might want to put a bit of fluff in the ear, or pink here, a bit more right there. But let's make sure he can stand up. Yes, he can stand up too. Now, but see, completely different. Completely different in look. And in fact, I prefer this one that we've just made together. And also, as you've probably realised, we haven't actually glued those eyes in yet. So quite simply, you can take that out, put some glue on the end and just pop it back in into his little socket. I've got to say, quite often I don't put glue on them at all. I just leave them in because we've actually put quite a nice little depth in there with a nice little covering. It's completely up to you. As per the instructions, you could add some extra dark here around the eyes. On the outside, let's do that. Giving you that kind of deeper look. So not just the dark on the side of the socket, but a bit of dark on the outside of the socket. There we go. Up the top, down the bottom. Just lightly felt in, very much at all. We really are painting with wool here, just adding bits of shading wherever you want to. You know how little rabbits often have tufts inside their ears, so you can even just get an extra bit of the white, add a little bit of a tuft. The little details that you can add are almost endless, really. There we go. Just trying to gently do this so that we don't and what we've already put in place. Upside down again. Do love an upside down. There we go. That just gives a little deeper eye, doesn't it, in comparison to the other side? Very pretty. Very pretty. So here we are, we've got to Toots Tips. We've got our little bunny. Well, I've got this version. I've got dark eyes one side, light eyes the other side, or I've got my original version. And as you might be able to see, I have this little bunny who's got a little whisker coming out here. So I thought it'd be a good idea. We've mentioned the whiskers in the instructions, so I thought it would be a great idea just to very quickly show you how we did that particular item. So, a paintbrush. Strange thing you may think to have when you're needle felting, but as you can see, it is a used brush. So I have basically pulled a couple out, and these are about the right thinness rather than thickness, because you don't want them too thick. Sometimes I've used horsehair and it can be really quite thick, and obviously horsehair is very long and not all of them have that graduation, because you need that graduation to give them, what should I say, that natural look. Okay, so we've got our whisker, and if we just use what we have here in the kit, I'm going to grab a needle. Now, if you've got an awl, or even, as I stretch over here, a toothpick, or even a very long pin, that would do as well. But I'm just going to use the needle that I've got here, just to create a little hole. So I'm just gradually putting it in and wiggling it about a bit. There. Not sure if you can see the little hole that it makes here. And ideally we would put a little bit of glue on the end. So decide which way round it's going, and we're going to pop it in. And then we will see. There we go. And then we've got our little whisker. Now in this case it does seem a bit long. So I'm going to take it out, and I don't know if you can see, but it's actually got a split in the end. So I'm just going to take one of these splits and I'm going to make it shorter. And also I obviously need to make it shorter in length, so I'm going to go to the thicker end and cut a bit off. Okay, oops, dropped it. Make sure the thick end is turned round again. Find the hole and in we go. And then we have the little whisker. So you can add as many as you like. Now, I mentioned when I was making my ears that you might even want to do a lop-eared bunny, which would be very, very, very long ears bent over. So let's have a look. So I'm going to include 2 tips in one. I don't need my paintbrush anymore. Pop him over there. Right, so here we go. I've actually started to stab and felt a nice long ear here, longer than the one I did for the initial one. Okay, so he's going to be quite long so that he can lop over. Now I did mention that one of the great ways to actually help you get a nice thin ear, because sometimes you can felt for quite some time and still feel like just not quite thin enough, or not as thin as you would like him. As I say, it's all down to the effect that you're going for. Yeah, I'm just going to stab a bit more here, and I'm going to show you what I use. I used to use an iron, and then I use hair straighteners. The great thing about hair straighteners is that I can have them here on my desk. In fact, if I just stretch across here, I have my hair straighteners. Oops, watch the bunny. Okay, I have no preference for type of hair straighteners. I just chose the cheapest because if you notice, I have very short hair and obviously have no experience whatsoever with hair straighteners. So here we go. We have our nice long shaped piece of felt, and I'm just going to initially pat down crossways. Nice. And then I'm going to go lengthways. And then back again, and this time I'm going to hold it and pull it. Because I'm making a lop ear, it doesn't matter if I stretch him out. In fact, nice and long is good. There we go. Lovely. Pop my straighteners down. Right, now look at that lovely thin ear. Right, we can now do this one of 2 ways. We can either, as I've shown before, just pull the fibres in, use our business card to actually hold him while we do some felting. Or, if you fancy, grab your scissors and just snip into shape. I am just taking off the extra fluffies here. Okay, so always having another look. Now I think I might need him a little bit longer. Pull him out a bit. Look at the shape again. Yeah. Actually, I'm just going to do a little bit more stabbing here. Or actually, I really should use the business card. Be good. I just want to change the shape of the top a little bit. Stab, stab, stab. There we go. Now, I would add this just like I would a normal ear. Pinch it down the bottom, as we did before. Now, pretend that other ear isn't there. And then I put him in place and just flop it down. And then you have a little lop-eared rabbit. And as before, use some of the white and pink just to add the detail in there. But you can see how the hair straighteners really helped with that nice long shape, because it even helped, you know, stretching it out a bit, and it keeps it really nice and strong. We have a lop-eared rabbit, and using hair straighteners, 2 tips in 1. Lovely. Now we put our brown dark wool around the outside of that eye, just to give it a nice bit of emphasis. But you could also add little bits of grey just on the edge here, just to give it even more definition. If you look at the pictures of rabbit's eyes, there are little bits of whites in the corner, little grey bits around the shading. Have a look at those, and even on this side where I haven't put the dark bits around, you could even decide to put the dark underneath, put the light on top. Just play with it and see the different effects that you can get just by adding some colours around the eyes. So lastly, just to say, we made a lovely little bunny from grey and brown here, but you could choose any colour. We made the shape of the core wool and then just added the colour. So you might even want to make a rainbow bunny even, which is fine. Grab your colours and put them on. If you have some wool around, perhaps knitting wool, if it's 100% or at least 60-70% wool, because to felt it, it really does need to have wool within it, and perhaps a majority. You could use some of that to get some really lovely effects, completely up to you. You might even want to do a black and white one next time. Just look at some pictures and go mad with the colours. So thanks for joining us on this workshop. Love to see the bunny that you've made. Why not comment below, put in your pictures so we can all see how you've got along. Once again, if you do have any questions, also write them below, or you can join my Facebook group, which is Boutiques Tips and Tutorials. And we look forward to seeing you again.